Om Sri Sai Ram, offering our love and gratitude to our most beloved Bhagwan. I welcome you all, sisters, brothers, and elders, to today's webinar. This webinar is part of the series for the Zone 3 Pre-World Conference and Pre-Young Adult Festival under the aegis of the Sathya Sai International Organization of Australia and Papua New Guinea. Today's talk will be in the overall context of the theme, Unity is Divinity and Purity is Enlightenment. Let me now introduce the speaker for this evening's webinar, by Sriranganatha Raju. Sriranganatha Raju has had the good fortune of completing his tertiary education as a Sai student, Swami's student. Having enrolled in the Bachelor of Commerce Honours course, he went on to complete his Masters of Arts in Economics and the flagship Masters in Business Administration from the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. He began his professional career in 2007 as an equity analyst with Amba Research, before joining the TVS Group in 2009. The next 8 years were with the TVS Group. He started as an economist with the TVS Motors, growing to become the head of economic research at TVS Motors. In recognition of his caliber, he was promoted as the chief economist of the TVS Group before growing further to play a very important and visible role as the executive assistant to Sri Venu Srinivasan, the chairman of the TVS Group. In this role, he had an oversight of the 110 companies that are part of the TVS Group. He turned an entrepreneur in January 2017 with the launch of Sanatana Analytics and Recruitment Services Private Limited. He, along with his team of 83 members, specialize in economic research, analytics, consultation, recruitment, retail solutions, and other ancillary services. In his professional career, he was awarded, amongst others, the most promising young economist for the year 2015. He is also a core group member of SIAM ERG, part of the core team to draft the India Auto Policy, and a member of the core policy group of Vahan. An erudite writer and poet, he had the privilege and good fortune to script and present over 400 drama performances in the presence of our beloved Swami. Lovingly referred to and called as the Kavi by Swami, which means a poet, he has spoken in his presence on more than 60 occasions. Raju has addressed around 2,000 gatherings in India and overseas as he continues to spread his message, Mission Sri Sathya Sai. Today, it is our good fortune to listen to Sriranganatha Raju share his thoughts on the topic, Are You My Devotee? Over to you, brother Sriranganath. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, everyone. Idda Sanandadi Siddha Sansevitini Shanta Vigrahuni Vatsalya Gunani Kamaniya Lokamangala Dayakuni Shivuni Vishwabandhani Jagat Vinuteshta Gukhya Kasadya Yaksho Rakshanatha Kubera Sansevitini Durvara Balunu Uchata Tapo Yoga Vidyaruti Satya Sai Ishwaran Ninumrukkeda. Offering myself at the Divine Lotus feet, it's a great feeling to be talking about Swami. Thank you for getting this opportunity. When we talk about Swami, what do we talk? Where do we start? And the topic that we have for today's session is, are you my devotee? How do you define a devotee? Who is a devotee? What is devotion? To understand these definitions and concepts, let's just delve into what Swami has said on many occasions. And as brother Sumit had kindly announced that I have this dramatic inclination, so I would like to talk about stories that we have seen, we have heard in Swami's presence that drive this message. Who is a devotee? That's a question that would pop up. I've asked this question many times, and many people have told me very simple and straight answer, at least related to Swami, is the one who comes to Puttaparthi. He is a devotee. Now, I remember one Swami had come to third block after darshan, and he called one of my classmates and he asked him to speak a particular incident. I would just narrate that incident. This happened to his uncle. His uncle was in a town of India called Kanpur. It's a fairly big town. He was organizing bhajans on every Thursday. And every week he would notice that more and more new devotees are coming for the bhajans. He was quite intrigued. One day he stopped a stranger who had come for the bhajans and asked him, how do you know that bhajans are happening in my place? Swami's bhajans are happening in my place. How do you know it? He said, sir, that's strange because there is a sadhu who is sitting in the railway station. And anyone comes onto the platform or comes near the station, he tells them that bhajans are happening in such and such place. You go and attend. We thought you placed the sadhu in the station. So this further intrigued him. Along with his 4 to 5 friends, this uncle of my classmate had gone to the railway station. And sure, as he said, as the stranger said, he found a sadhu some 200 meters away, sitting there lost in his thought. And as he approached, the sadhu looked at him strange and raised his left hand and said, stop. Somewhere 100 meters afar, he said, just stop. So he stopped. He was quite stunned and he said, I have 2 conditions for you to come near me. Condition 1, when you come near me, do not touch my feet. Condition 2, allow me to touch your feet when you come near. This quite perplexed him, but his intention is to get the answer. He said, fine, come what may. So he went ahead. Then the sadhu started narrating his experience. He said, do you know how lucky you are? I was a 7 to 8-year-old kid in Shivananda's ashram some 40 years ago. Swami had gone to Himalayas, and during that visit, Swami had visited Shivananda's ashram. So when Swami entered Shivananda's ashram, Shivananda was he was inviting Swami, he was actually sitting on a stool, and as he saw Swami, he jumped up and literally fell on Swami's feet, saying, Lord, you have come at last. Now this 8-year-old kid was observing all this. He said, as an 8-year-old kid, for me, that moment redefined what God was. For me, everything was my Guru, Shivananda. But when I saw Shivananda falling at Swami's feet, I knew that this person is not an ordinary mortal. I have to meet him at some point of time in my life. So that day I decided that I would meet him. But it could not happen because a lot of crowd. And then years rolled by. He grew 30, 35-year-old. One day he had come to a station called Chennai railway station. He just got down a train. He went out of the station to buy something, and this man saw Swami's photo in the shop. He asked the shopkeeper as to who this person is in that photograph, and he said, sir, he is Sathya Sai Baba. He says, yes, I know he who he is, but where does he stay? He said, it's very near, quite near from him. You take a train from here to Dharmavaram. There you get down, and from Dharmavaram you would get, that time there was no railway station in Puttaparthi. From Dharmavaram you would get bus every 1 hour. It's just 40 kilometers from Dharmavaram. He thought it's quite easy a travel, so he took the train, landed up in Dharmavaram. It was night. He thought anyway it's quite near, so he can take the next day first bus. So see, being a mendicant, being a sadhu, he just slept on the platform. Next day morning, as he opened his eyes, to his amazement, to his shock, he found himself in a cave. And deep down, there's a gorge. Deep around, all around him, there's just huge hills, mountains. He is not able to understand what exactly transpired that one night. He looked around. He's not able to get an answer. So he did his usual means of getting an answer. That is, he sat in meditation. He started meditating. That is when he heard a voice. A voice, thunderous it was. It said, "Oh fool, try whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Attempt how many ever times you want. But till I call you, you cannot come to me. You cannot even know about me." Then he opened his eyes. He knew that his time has not yet come. Now this sadhu, this person, he's telling the uncle, he said, "Tell me now, who is lucky? Is it you or is it me? You have been to Prashanti Nilayam, you have seen Swami, you have heard about Swami, but yet I am here, not getting a single chance even to look at him, even to talk about him." So, who is a devotee? The one who comes to Parthi, the one who doesn't come to Parthi. Let's take one more case of the one who comes to Parthi. I've had a very strange interaction with one of the foreigner devotee who had come. He had come from Italy. He told me this experience. It was in my third UG. He was sitting under a tree and he was crying. I thought I would ask him as to why he is crying. So I approached him and said, "Sir, what happened? Is there anything that we can help you with?" He said, "No, mine is a very strange case." I said, "What happened, sir?" I said, "I have been in Prashanti Nilayam for last 7 days. I've come all the way from Italy and I'm not able to see Bhagavan." I said, "What are you saying?" He said, "Yes, I've come 7 days ago." So he told me a story. He said, "I have come for a 7-day trip to Prashanti Nilayam. First day when he arrived in Parthi, Prashanti Nilayam, he came with his baggage. He took out all his documents, but to his shock, he was not able to find his passport. He tried search, rummaged through his luggage. It went on for hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Finally, he found it somewhere tucked in his clothes. Almost that entire day was lost in just getting that passport document, getting an entry into the ashram. He got his accommodation. He got everything done. He thought maybe was first day he missed. He thought he would go next day and have darshan. So next day he went around Prashanti Nilayam. He went around and went round and round and round, but yet he could not find where the darshan was happening. Somehow he just missed. And 10:30, 11 in the morning, he asked someone as to where Swami is giving darshan. He said, it's over. It's 9:30, darshan gets over. He thought, I have been in Prashanti Nilayam for 1.5 days. I have not seen something strange. Then he went with this person. He saw the place as to where Swami would get darshan. Then they told him it's evening 4, around 3:34. Swami would come for darshan again. Don't miss. Be there on time. Maybe by 1:30, try to be in the hall. So he had a sound sleep. By the time he got up, it was 3:30. Thought he should rush. So he went to darshan. He went to the hall, and the Sevadal right at the gate stopped him. Why? There is a problem, because this person had come in his shorts and the Sevadal would not allow him. And being from a different background, from a different orientation, he wouldn't take that insult. And initially it was an argument, then the argument became a scuffle, then the scuffle became a brawl. They dragged him, they took him out, Sevadal took him out, and after 3-4 hours that went by, he learned his lesson. He thought, "I'm really sorry," he apologized. He said, "Next day I would buy my clothes, proper clothes, I would come for darshan." 2 days have gone by, no darshan. Third day morning, he bought his new pajama, white. He saw everybody buying white pajamas, so he wore his white pajamas, came for darshan. And this time Sevadal, with a gleeful smile, allowed him. He walked in. Swami is yet to come. And he was just sitting. As he was sitting, because of his huge body, the pajamas just tore away. They just tore into 2 pieces. It was too embarrassing for him to sit, so he just rushed back. He wanted to get his other pair, but he couldn't find. He went for hours. It went on for hours, and that darshan missed. He could not see Swami again. Next session, evening he comes to hall. They tell him, Baba is going outside. No, you don't sit here. So he ran around. He just went around with the devotees. He stood in a line. He was waiting for Swami. And after a few hours, they started dispersing. He said, what happened? No, Swami was supposed to come through this route, but Swami went to hospital through the other inner route. So he will not be coming anymore. 3 days missed. 4th day, some reason missed. 5th day missed. 6th day missed. 7th day. And that was the day when he's supposed to come back. In spite of being in Puttaparthi, in spite of so close to Swami, in spite of being so close, in spite of such proximity, no darshan. 7th day, he was sitting and waiting. And that is when he told me, just hours back, I was sitting and waiting in hall. And then Swami came. And this time, he was sitting, he was in the first line, he was waiting for Swami. But strangely, few minutes before Swami came, something happened. And by the time he opened his eyes, Swami finished his darshan and Swami went into interview room. What happened? This person slept. He just slept through the entire darshan. And he missed even 7th day darshan. He was telling me, what mistake did I do? It just kept me thinking, who is a devotee? Is the one who is far from Puttaparthi? Is the one who is so close in Puttaparthi? Or there would be another definition that would be given, that the one who serves Swami is a devotee. The one who is very close to Swami is a devotee. I was once asked to speak in Swami's presence. It was on Guru Purnima day. So I was sitting just behind Swami's throne, and I was able to see the 2 boys who were sitting next to Swami. They would serve Swami physically. Swami needs some assistance. So the boys were always attentive. And since it's near Guru Purnima day, there are cultural programs that are being put up, and especially it's a very colorful program that was put up by one of the states of India. So an extremely engaging program. The boy on the right to the Swami, he was so lost looking into the drama. There was a drama that was going on in Swami's presence, and this boy was so lost in looking into the drama that for a moment he forgot Swami's presence. And I was seeing all this just right behind. And Swami had a letter in his right hand. So he wanted to pass this letter. He just turned it like this. And this boy was lost in the drama. Swami looked at him, then took his letter and tossed it to the other boy on the left side. So the boy on the left side took the letter. And then Swami looks back at me. Since I was sitting behind the throne, just near the throne, I was able to see the entire Kulwant hall. Right at the end of the Kulwant hall, there is one devotee with a Gandhi cap. He was sitting right at the end. He was craning his neck to look at Swami. He was literally craning up like that to look at Swami. And Swami indicates to me, saying, look, he points like this, so near. He's pointing to the boy who is lost in the drama. He says, so near, yet so far. So far, yet so near. I was quite stunned. Who is the devotee? Who is actually close to Swami? Is it the one who tried to come to Puttaparthi, or is it the one who came to Puttaparthi yet has not seen him, or is it that boy who is sitting next to him and yet is lost in the world? Or is it that devotee who has actually come pining for Swami? Is it the devotees who come pining for Swami? Are they, is it the people who come for Swami? Are they the devotees? Once I had an opportunity, I would assist the devotees coming to Puttaparthi for putting up many dramas. Since my mother tongue is Telugu, Swami had encouraged me to write a lot of dramas in Telugu. So devotees would ask me to write dramas in Telugu, and I would help them. And whenever the devotee groups come, Swami would invariably talk to me. So one day, one such large gathering had come. Around 3,300 people had come. So Swami was talking to me. He was asking me some questions about the drama, about other things. And in that conversation, I told Swami that, Swami, so many devotees have come today. I folded my hands and I was telling with a lot of reverence, saying that, Swami, so many devotees have come. So he looked at the entire crowd. The Kulwant House was full. It was a sea of people. He just looked at the entire crowd and said, I see only people, but not devotees. It took a while for me to get the answer, to understand it. I was quite stunned. He said, I see people but not devotees. Now, if you notice the 60th birthday, he comes on to 60th birthday platform, and the entire ground was full with people, nearly 2.5 lakh people. It was full. And fifth sentence into the discourse, he sings a very strange poem. He says, Vetukuchunnanu nenu vetukuchunnanu. He says, it means, I am searching, I am searching, I am in search of my devotees. I am alone, I am alone, I am alone in the sea of people. I am searching for my devotee. Who is then a devotee? The ground was full with 2.5 lakh devotees. The hall was full with 3,300 people, and yet he says, I don't see devotees. Then is it, if not the people who come to Swami for darshan, if not the people who come to see him, is it the organizers who organize? Is it those working hands behind them? Are they the devotees? In one more such Prashanti Nilayam Yatra, Parthi Yatra, I had an opportunity to introduce one of the organizers of that particular Yatra. I was telling Swami that, Swami, this so and so has organized this entire trip of 4,000 devotees. I said, Swami, he is your great devotee. Swami looked at me, gave a gleeful smile, looked at him, blessed him, and said, Kadra, no, he is Lakshmi's devotee. He is a devotee of wealth. I was quite stunned. Even that person was stunned. He just looked at Swami, but that gave me a clue as to who a devotee is. What Swami was meaning by that in that sentence is, where are we drawing our power from? What are we relying upon for our strength? Are we relying upon our position? Are we relying upon our body? Are we relying upon our fame? Are we relying upon our connections? What are we holding on to? What is the source of our power? Is the source of our power our influence, our money, our wealth, or is it Swami? What is the source of our power? What is our ultimate reliance? Once Swami was sitting in Trai Brindavan in one of the halls. He was talking to few hospital boys who had finished their graduation and who were about to join in the hospital. Swami was talking to them, and in that intimacy, that beautiful flow of emotions, Swami told them there were 9 boys, very, very well built, hefty boys. Swami told them, move my chair, lift my chair. The question, they said, Swami said, yes, lift my chair. So I'm sure all of us have seen Swami so frail, so thin. So one boy who was almost like 100 kilos, he just moved as he asked everybody to move aside. He said, I would alone move Swami's chair with my left hand. So he held Swami's chair with his left hand and he tried to shake. It would not shake. Then he tried with both hands. It wouldn't move. Then another boy joined him. Then 3 boys. Then 6 boys. 9 boys. They were trying with their entire strength in the body, exasperated, yet the chair wouldn't move, not an inch. They tried their best, and they were panting. And out of that sheer desperation, one boy said, Sai Ram, and the chair moved. The Swami said, stop. And Swami made a beautiful point. He said, till you relied on your body, as long as you relied on the strength of your body and mind, you are not able to move Swami. But the minute you relied on Swami's name, Swami was moved. Now, this message is not to them, not alone to them, but it is to each one of us. And one more such Parthi Yatra, one of the organizers, he was praying that, Swami, you should come to our place, you should bless the people there. So I was sitting just next to Swami's throne. I was privy to that conversation. So this organizer tells Swami that, Swami, we want you. Swami looked at him deeply and he said, "Do you want me or do you want to use me?" And there was stunned silence. Then he looked at me. I did not know what to answer. I just bowed both my hands and said, "Swami, I do not know." Now, answer is not expected. It was a thought to be thought upon. Do we want Swami or do we want to use Swami? Now, what was Swami meaning? He was saying that, is Swami the end or is Swami the means? What is it that we actually seek from Swami? I had 4 classmates. Swami would talk to 4 of them different points of time. One of them would write always letters about his ill health. He said, "Swami, I have this problem. My health is not good. My mother health is not good. There is some issue at my house. It's always problem." And Swami would, whenever he would write the letter, Swami would talk to him. Swami would take the letter. Swami would bless him. And needless to say, the problem is solved. Then another classmate of mine, he had high aspirations. He would, whenever Swami comes to him, he would say, "Swami, I want to get first rank in so and so examination. Swami, I want to be a rank holder in so and so examination. Swami, I want to be CEO of such and such company in life." Swami would say, "It will happen. Tappaka, tappaka, tappaka." Needless to say, this person has got many national recognitions. Now he is doing quite well in his career. And third is another classmate. He is actually not my classmate, but 1 year senior. But he ended up in my class for some strange reasons. So I would call him brother. So this brother would have questions, thirst, unending thirst about certain spiritual topics. He would ask Swami about what is constant integrated awareness. He would ask Swami, how do we define love? And the barrage of questions would never end. Swami would give us interviews, but all of us would be just looking down, and it will be a one-to-one conversation between this boy and Swami. Meanwhile, we would be looking at Swami, but that conversations would go on. And there was another classmate who was silent, who wouldn't ask anything. But I have noticed one thing strange. Wherever this boy sits, Swami would come and stand next to him. If he is late for darshan, Swami would wait. Swami would create an excuse for this boy to come for darshan, and Swami would not miss looking at this boy, smiling at him, winking at him, blessing him in every round of darshan. It was such a beautiful, intimate relationship. It took quite a time for me to understand that these classmates, 4 of mine, were not just classmates, but they were representing 4 things, 4 buckets of things that we seek from Swami, that we seek from God. Some seek immediate deliverance from pain, from suffering. In the Hindu mythology, we call them Arti. They seek immediate deliverance from suffering. Other ones seek fame, name, position, wealth. God is medium. God is a means for their end. Artharti. And the third one has a deep quest for spiritual knowledge, for deep knowledge of the things that the mind cannot perceive. He is Jignasu. He is inquisitive. And the fourth one, Jnani, the wise one. What would the wise one want? Nothing. The wise one wants only God. And it is not that these were the only 4 in my class who were seeking Swami, but there were many others. And there was one of my seniors who would go on seeking Swami for many things. But the issue is this. He would give a letter to Swami about something, and he would go on asking Swami next day, next session, "Swami, the problem is not yet solved. Swami, the problem is not yet solved. Swami, the problem is not yet solved." I remember one day Swami was so upset that Swami asked him to go outside Trai Vrindavan and not to enter for next 2 sessions. He said, "This boy is very anxious, anxiety. The anxiety of the mind killed his proximity to God. And there is another kind. It was, in fact, it was me who would give too many choices to Swami. One day Swami was blessing us. We had exams, so Swami was blessing all of us. And I remember I had carried 5 pens for 5 different papers, then 3 calculators, then 2 notebooks, and 6 photographs. I wanted Swami to bless each one of them. 5 pens, each one for each exam, each photograph for each exam, calculators for each exam, and other things, the books for different exams. Swami looked at all of that. He just smiled and he said, he just patted on my forehead. He gave a smile and walked away. I was so upset, but I did not realize then that so petty was my devotion that nothing mattered more than his presence. But I wanted too many choices. I had too many choices. That confusion of mind. I want this also. I want that also. I want that other thing also. And I remember once Swami was walking with Rai Vrindavan, he was coming to the Jula. Swami looked at the ant and he said, see, there was an ant that was passing by. He said, see, look at this ant. You all should be like the ant. It is slow, it is steady, never gives up, never ever gives up, always on the goal. It builds day by day, minute by minute, and it achieves. So we seek four things, and we seek in 3 different ways. The anxious bird, the confused monkey, the monkey that's confused with too many choices, the anxious bird which wants to pluck the fruit before it is ripened, and the small little ant which is ever steady and ever moving towards the goal. Now, what is it that we seek? As long as we seek the world, Swami had said in one discourse, as long as we seek the world, God is only a means, God is only a medium. But when we seek God, you or we become his devotee. Swami very beautifully says that he tells one very beautiful story. He says a king had arranged a huge exhibition, and the specialty of the exhibition is any visitor could choose anything that he wants from the exhibition. So someone came and they chose horses, it was given away. Someone came, they chose all the jewels, they were given away. Someone came and chose something else, it was given away. Whatever is asked is given away. Then came a 11-year-old girl. She came, she walked around the exhibition. Then she went to the king who organized the exhibition. The king lovingly looked at her and asked, what do you want? The girl looked at the king and said, sir, I do not want anything, but I want only you. The king was stunned. He said, there are too many toys, there are too many things that you can choose. Why do you want me after all? She said, sir, this exhibition belongs to you. Now, if I choose you, if you are mine, this entire exhibition is mine. And Swami would say, when you choose God, when you seek God, the entire world is God's. So the entire thing is yours. But choosing Swami, seeking Swami is not so easy. It's quite easy to talk, but it is not practically possible. In Chennai, during Atrudra Yajnam, one night, Swami had just finished his dinner and 4 of us were around Swami. And Swami was very in a benevolent mood. He asked us to ask questions. Just 4 of us and Swami. And I'd asked this question. I said, Swami, what is the source of attraction? How do we get attracted? Pat came the reply. Swami just looked at me. He put his hand on his chest and said, Drishti Ra, Drishti, vision, vision, vision. Vision not of the eyes, but of the heart. What do we mean vision of the heart? Or what is it when Swami means vision? In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Jhayato Vishayat Punsa. I would not go on to explain that entire shloka. He says, whatever you put your mind upon, if you put your mind upon the worldly objects, from that grows attachment. From that attachment comes desire. From that desire comes anger, and so on and so forth. And ultimately, it leads to destruction. But what is the seed here? Where you put your mind upon, that drishti, that is the seed. If you put your mind upon the world, It grows in you. If you put mind upon God, that Lord grows within us. The thoughts about Lord would grow within us. And ultimately, we would be consumed of those thoughts. The current bronze statue that you see in Bhajan Hall right now, which was installed some months ago, when it was first brought to Purnachandra Hall in the night, it was just brought down. Swami had come to see that statue. The two boys who had received the statue were not very happy. They said, Swami, why do we need this statue when the Lord, when you are in the form? Swami looked at the statue and said, one day this form will go. What will you do then? These boys were quite shocked. That's the first time they heard Swami talking about the disappearance of the form. They said, Swami, we do not know. Swami smiled and said, I have blessed you innumerable instances, innumerable times with my memories, with sweet little memories. Dwell upon them. Think of those moments. Think of all those moments that Swami spoke to you, that you spent with Swami, that Swami gave darshan, that Swami interacted with devotees. And through that, Swami reaches you. Now, when we put our mind on the world grows. When we put our mind on God, God grows within us. What we need to do is take out few minutes of our day and put our mind upon those moments that Swami blessed us with. Let those be few moments that are dedicated only to God. Let our mind be occupied with those moments. And Swami very nice, beautifully Swami says, he says, God is so strange. God is so beautiful that once you let him in, he would slowly throw everything out. He would fill himself in our hearts. Now, when we seek Swami, we become his devotee. And how do we seek Swami? We put our mind. Easiest is think of him, put our mind upon him, and it would ultimately lead him into us. Now, this would quite sound strange, but one of my seniors was known for swinging during bhajans. He would swing when the bhajans were going on. He would swing. It would be like a pendulum. So he was so tall. So if he swings on the right, all of us would swing to the left so that we could see Swami. If he swings to the left, we would swing to the right. So this would go on. It went on for 3 days, and this boy would be crying during bhajans. So one day, after 3 days, Swami came to him and Swami patted him and said, "Hey, why do you swing during bhajans?" He said, "Swami, this is devotion, Swami, this is devotion." Swami looked at him and said, "Devotion is not emotion. Devotion is dedication and determination." And another time, one more boy said, "Swami, I love you, Swami." Swami looked at him and said, "You love Swami?" Loving is not liking. Loving Swami is living Swami. Now we need to assess whether our devotion, is it an emotion? Is it a means for something? Or is it just liking? Or is it living Swami? When we start living Swami, when we start seeking Swami, when we start seeking only Swami, there would come 3 stages, as Swami says. The first stage, there is you and there is Swami. This Swami has likes and dislikes. This Swami has definitions. This Swami has expectations. You have likes and dislikes. You have expectations. You have desires. Now, this stage, it would be clash of this likes and dislikes, these two entities. You would try your best to suit your expectations, to suit your demand, to suit your aspirations to the imaginative Swami's likes and dislikes. So it's you and Swami. And slowly, as we tend to subserve our own selves to the image of Swami that we have in mind, slowly this image of ours would disappear. It is in this stage when both Swami and you are there. We would, as Swami would say, out of the 9 parts of devotion, 8 parts would come in here. We would Shravanam, we would hear about Swami's glory, we would talk about Swami's glory, we sing about his glory, we do his worship, we pray for him, we serve others so that we can make him happy. The 8 forms of devotion would come in. And a point would come where we would start disappearing and only Swami would remain. There is nothing of us anymore. There is nothing of us. It is only Swami. It is only Swami, Swami, Swami. Once I had asked Swami, Swami, what is surrender? And Swami said, you tell me what is surrender. My classmate who was just sitting next to me, he said, Swami, surrender means giving and taking. Swami immediately corrected, said, no, sir, there is no giving and taking in surrender. Surrender means accepting everything that happens in your life as Swami's prasadam is surrender. It is at this stage when there is nothing of us, but it's only Swami. Then everything becomes Swami's will. There is no like, there is no dislike, there is no aspiration, there is nothing to seek. It is only Swami, because whatever happens is his will. At this stage, the devotee would transform to become a disciple. And slowly, as this love becomes intense for Swami, this Swami would also tend to merge away in that love. And there is, at that stage, there is no difference between Swami and you. It is that one stage of supreme self. That is what it is called as mukti. That is what is called as liberation. But that is that ultimate state where there is no difference between you and Swami. My senior, his father wanted to, they had a habit, I would not say habit, a tradition of renouncing the world after 60 years. So his father, that's after the retirement of the job, the father had just completed his job. He finished his job and he had come to Swami to seek permission so that he can go to Kashi, he can go to Himalayas and meditate. He would spend the rest of his life as a renunciant. When he came to Swami, Swami looked at him and said, stay here, stay with me, and I assure you that you will get what many others would not get even after hundreds of years of tapas. I would give you that. And he said, what is it that I need to do? Swami told him, beautifully, Swami told him a mantra. He said, I'll give you a simple mantra. He told him in Telugu. I will repeat in Telugu. If there is anyone in Telugu, it would benefit them. Nevertheless, I will also translate it in English. He said, ఆ శరీరంలోని ఆత్మ ఈ శరీరంలోని ఆత్మ ఒక్కటే అని అనుకో. He said, if you see anyone, just say this, the atma in that body is the same as the atma in this body. So this mantra would be enough. This devotee, my senior's father, this devotee had lived on for next 19 years in Prashanti Nilayam, and he had 2 sons and 1 daughter. The daughter would, whenever she came to Prashanti Nilayam, she would take Swami's explicit permission to leave. One day she had to leave on an emergency basis. She tried to approach Swami, but Swami was so busy that she could not get Swami's permission. She had tried so many times, so many ways, but somehow she could not get Swami's permission. So she came back to her house dejected. Her father was sitting on the chair, smiling at her. She said, Father, Nana, today I have not got Swami's permission to leave. Father looked at her and said, take my Pada Namaskaram. I bless you. This is same as Swami blessing. Go. And she left. Next day, he passed away. He left his body. The daughter came back rushing. The sons were very dejected. Then Swami had called them for interview. Swami told this lady that, don't you remember this had happened? He had reached a stage where there was no difference. Body, at a level of body, there might be a difference, but in that ultimate state, the devotion consumed him. The devotion consumed me also, and it made us one. Now with this, it's 40 minutes. I would bring my talk to a close. It is for each one of us to assess whether Swami is a medium, whether Swami is a means for an end, or whether Swami is an end, or whether we are using Swami, or whether we want Swami. What is our relationship with Swami? How much of Swami exists in our day-to-day life? How much of Swami is present in our every thought, in our every deed? I don't need to tell you that whether you are his devotee or not. Nobody needs to certify anyone else about someone's devotion. But deep in our heart, there is that Lord sitting, and he knows every deed. He knows every thought and every action that we are doing. He is the judge. Swami told me once, he said, in the court of man, you are judged for right and wrong. In the house of God, you are measured for your devotion. It is house of God. It is not court of man. We are never judged. We are only measured. Just one, and everyone is in that path to the Lord. I thank each one of you, and importantly to the most beloved Bhagavan, for allowing me to talk about him, for giving all of us a chance to think about Swami. Srikanta Lokesha Lokodbhavastana Samharakari Purari Murari Priya Chandradhari Mahendradi Brundaraka Ananda Sandoha Sandhayi Punyaswarupa Virupaksha Daksha Dvaradam Saka Devanidaina Tattvam Buddhim Pradhanam Vanch Buddhimantul Nana Prakaram Bulin Ninnu Bhavintu Rishana Bhattaraka Bharga Bhagat Sakutsadi Nana Munistutta Dattavadana Lalatekshanogragyan Basmikruta Anangana Luptanga Gangadhara Ni Prasadambunan Siddha Gandharva Girvan Surendadal Shashwata Ishwarya Sampraptula Irishwara Vishwakarta Surabhyacharta Momemu Arpintum O Karunyamurti Tilokaikanatha Namaste Namaste Namaha. My prayerful obeisance to the Lord. Thank you. Now open for questions.
Sairam, brother.
Sairam, brother.
The first question that's come, there are many paths that one chooses. It could be to do Namasmarana. It could be to elaborate on the scriptures. It could be to move within and delve deeper through meditation and penance. Or it could be something as simple as doing seva. Has Swami any point of time given an order of preference or priority amongst these paths that multiple people can choose to reach him?
That's a wonderful question, brother. I recollect an incident during Ganesh Chaturthi. We would get an opportunity to make chariots for Ganesha, and these chariots would be taken to the hall, and Swami would come and bless those chariots. Now, in a class group of 80 to 90 people, different people have different sets of talents. Some would be singers, they would be leading the chariot. Some would be those hefty workers who would actually build the chariot. Some would be artists who would design the chariot. Some would be organizers who would get the people around, who would go and tell Swami. Each of them would have somewhere or the other to reach Swami. But in our class, there was one brother who was little weak in his expressions, who wouldn't have any of these talents. And there was no way for him to get to Swami. So when the chariots were being built, he was watching, and it was quite sunny. So all he did was he went into the hostel kitchen, he got buttermilk, and he served everyone who is building those chariots. Now, some were doing bhajans, some were chanting Vedam when the Ganeshas were erected. Someone was painting with their artistic skill. Someone were erecting the domes of the chariots with their hefty bodies. But this brother, a simpleton, had nothing. He could do nothing. He had a health issue. He was not expressive. He cannot sing. He cannot talk. He cannot chant Vedam. All he could do was just serve water and buttermilk to all the people who were building the chariot. Now all of us went to Kulant Hall, and this boy, since he was not present in any of the departments, he ended up sitting somewhere last. He was not even allowed to come in the front. But Swami came for blessing the chariots, and I remember he stood near this particular chariot. Swami would break two coconuts. So, and since Swami came in, all the boys they just surrounded Swami, and this boy who was actually whom I had referred about serving water, he was somewhere last. So strangely, through some push and pull and all that, he just ended up near Swami. So, and Swami broke coconuts. So always the right hand coconut would break. The coconut broke, and it just fell on the ground. Now, since Swami would walk, the ground has to be immediately cleaned, and there was a minute gap before the boy who was supposed to clean had come. So meanwhile, this boy who had served water to everyone, he just took out a handkerchief and cleaned the path. Swami looked at him, looked deeply, and said, "Come." Now, he ended up being with Swami in the entire Kulant Hall. For next 1.5 hours, he was just next to Swami. Wherever Swami would break coconut, he would go and wipe the ground. In that way, he ended up being almost like 1.5 hours around Swami. And I was observing all this. In the end, Swami blessed all Ganeshas. Then Swami he gave this boy a big laddu prasada. And Swami said, "What Swami saw in you," this boy was crying. He said, "Swami, I have not done anything, Swami, but you gave me such proximity. You gave me yourself for such long time." Swami smiled and said, "What I have looked into your heart is not your hard work. It is your intentions. It is your motives. That is what pleased Swami. You have served water thinking that all of them are Swamis. So I have received the water and I am reciprocating that love. You have followed those bhajans thinking that the one who is singing is Swami. And I have appreciated that feeling and I am reciprocating that love." Now, each path depends on our mental makeup, on our background, on our cultural, historical, anthropological, I'm an economist, sociological backgrounds. Now, some would go for bhakti, some would go for devotion, some would go for service, some would meditate. As Swami would say, all these are actually different streams of the river merging into the ocean. It doesn't matter what we take up, but whatever we take up, we have to take it. There are three things that Swami says have to be there in the path that we take up. One, steadfastness, come what may. If we choose to serve with all our heart and mind. If we choose to meditate with all our heart and mind. If we choose to sing with all our heart and mind. The path is lesser important than how we do it. Second, discipline. Do it at a particular time, but do it in a consistent manner. Do not overdo it, do not underdo it. Do it in a consistent manner. And third, love for God. Taiva Preeti, love for God. Any path that we take, let it be suffused with love for God. I remember when Swami was going to super specialty hospital. So one dog Swami's car had come just in front of the hostel. Sai Gita was just coming through her gate to Swami's car, and one dog crossed the road. And one of my classmates who was actually doing namaskar to Swami, since the dog was just crossing, it was approaching Swami's car, he just kicked the dog with his left leg. Swami was still then so pleasant looking at Sai Gita and so pleasant looking at this boy. The minute this boy kicked the dog, he just got so wild. He looked at him and said, "Hey, Buddhi Lada, don't you have sense?" I said, "What devotion is this? You are folding your hands to the seen God and you are kicking the dog, which is also the form of God, which is also another form of me." Now, it depends on us what path we choose, but make sure that we have these three ingredients in the path. Thank you.
Next question, a very interesting one. Do we, as a devotee, get a right to fight with Swami?
It's a beautiful question, and Swami very explicitly answered this question in one of the discourses in 1960s. But it's very important. Do we get a right to fight with Swami if we are his devotees? Definitely yes, definitely. But Swami says the question itself is little skewed. It's wrong. Why? Because when do we become devotee? When we see God and nothing else. And when do we fight? When there is clash of opinions, clash of priorities. But when you see God, when there is you and God, where is the clash? If it is God is always first, there's no clash. If you love God, God is always right. Fight is only seeking. If we seek Swami, yes. Now, when we are a devotee, as I've told you, when we reach that stage of devotion, fights would disappear. Because it's only God and love for God.
Thank you, brother. One more question. There was a beautiful couplet that you recited just before you concluded your talk. Could you chant that again, along with giving a meaning for it so that a larger part of the audience can understand it?
Oh, yes. So it's basically, my mother tongue is Telugu. So Swami would often, in my entire student days, or in fact, till 2011, I was never called by my name. Swami would always call me as Kavi. For this love for Telugu, he would tell me what poems to pick up, what poems to write, and this was one such poem from Bhagavatam. It is a praise to the Lord. He says, Srikanta Lokesha Lokod Bhavastana. The meaning would take a little long, but however, I would send it on mail. But very briefly I'll explain. Srikanta Lokesha Lokod Bhavastana Samharakari Purari Murari Chandra Priya Murari Priya Chandra Dhari. It is praise to the Lord Shiva, the one who has a dark throat, the one who is the Lord of Lokesha, the one who is the Lord of the world, Lokod Bhavastana, the one from whom the entire world or the universe emerged, Samharakari, the one who annihilates, Murari, the one who killed the demon called Mura, Chandradhari, the one who made the moon as his crown, and the meaning would go on. It's basically a description of Lord Shiva. There are around 108 such descriptions. It's a Dandakam. It would take little long. I would send it on mail.
Thank you, brother. With this, I offer our thanks to you for having given us a beautiful interpretation and your understanding of the topic for the webinar. Interspersed with beautiful anecdotes where you, as a first person, were part of the conversations that Swami was having himself and giving out a lot of meaning to the interactions that he was having with devotees around. It's a session that we all enjoyed immensely. Thank you, Brother Raju, for having taken your time to spend this 45 to 50 minutes with all of us here.
Thank you.